Jesse Mermell, Senator Paul Feeney, good to see you both here on Zoom. We're less than 2 weeks away from this 4th Congressional District primary. We have 8 candidates running hard, very competitive, and endorsements. We're all paying a lot of attention to who decides to speak out. Senator Feeney, we thought you might run for this seat at one point, but you've stayed neutral and you've stayed out. But today you're throwing your support behind Jesse Mermell. Why'd you decide to take this step, and why Jesse?
First of all, great to be with you, Ted, and here with Jesse Mermell. Look, I mean, this is something I don't take lightly. As you know, I was almost a candidate for this race last year. I thought really hard about jumping in to the congressional race. But, you know, I decided I'm blessed to be a state senator in the Bristol and Norfolk District. And I really wanted to focus on the things that I was trying to accomplish in the state Senate and run for re-election. So with that, you know, there was a talented field of candidates that got involved. And I had all intentions of staying neutral and just, you know, letting the voters decide. And you know, at the end of the day, I would work for whoever the Democratic nominee was for the seat. But in the course of this campaign, again, with such a talented field of individuals, there was one person, at least to me, that really rose above all the rest of them. And that's Jesse. And you know, Ted, you know me. I mean, I tend to do things a little bit differently. As a working person who found myself in the Massachusetts State Senate, it's important for me that these endorsements and these decisions aren't just made from the top down. It's, you know, I've met with all the candidates. But to hear from my supporters, to hear from people in my district, to hear from the working men and women throughout the Bristol and Norfolk district and who they support. And over the last couple of weeks, I have heard from so many of them that said, Paul, Jesse is the real deal. And I agree with them. So I'm happy to support her. I'm proud to endorse her today. And I'm going to work hard to make sure that Jesse is our next Congresswoman from the 4th Congressional.
So, Jesse, you know, you and I have had some conversations before on endorsements. There's probably a short list of endorsements I was watching for in our part of the 4th District, ours being the southern part of the 4th District. And Senator Feeney was certainly one of them. But, you know, what does this bring to your campaign? I know you love all endorsees. They're like children. You love all of them equally. But this seems like an important one. Do you agree?
It's incredibly important. And I'll tell you, you know, Senator Feeney called me yesterday to let me know that he'd be joining what we keep calling Team Jesse. And I told him what I'll tell you. I'm not naive to the political significance of this endorsement, but it means more to me personally, because I know what Senator Feeney's values are. I know how hard he fights for working families. I know how hard he fights for a healthcare system that works for everyone. And to have him in my corner, to have him place his faith in me means the world. And of course, it is not lost on me that he is an incredibly popular and effective senator, you know, in Foxborough and Attleboro and Rehoboth and Seekonk. And I'm so grateful for his political support. But to have his, you know, Paul Feeney good housekeeping seal of approval on the values that we share and have shared for so long is infinitely more important to me.
You know, Paul, Senator, I've been spending a lot of time writing about this race, analyzing it, talking to experts, looking at any data I can get my hands on by hook or by crook. And, you know, we had a poll out this week from Data for Progress. It certainly showed Jesse Mermell as one of the competitive candidates, but it showed a very tight race. The front runners at like 12 and 13%, and a lot of voters undecided. I mean, I know you want a progressive in this seat. You're obviously a supporter of Congressman Kennedy, so you've been happy with its representation so far. But, you know, in the end, elections are political. I mean, do voters who share your point of view run a risk that if they split their vote too many ways, they're not going to get the kind of candidate they want next week or in 2 weeks, excuse me?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the political calculus of a Democratic primary, the crowded field. But for me, it's different. And that's what when I mentioned earlier, you know, politics needs to be done differently, right? We can't just do the status quo anymore, which is kind of, you know, waving your finger in the air and seeing which way the wind is blowing, you know, riding, as I always say, the polar coaster and seeing different polls come out from day to day. You know, this is about values, and it's about shared values. You know, Jesse is somebody that's been fighting for the things that I care about for many, many years, and she's done it effectively. You know, it's one thing just to go out and to talk about these issues, but you have to act. And Jesse's somebody that's been able to do that effectively over the years in her career in public service and the other things that she's done. You know, that's what it's about for me. So certainly, you know, there is a lot of talk in this campaign, but there are very few that have shown the ability to act and to be able to be effective representatives in this field. So, you know, for me, politics is personal, right? It's about listening to people. I had a mentor of mine for many years who lives here in the district who said, Paul, it's not just about your ability or your inability. It's about your availability. It's about your accessibility. It's about understanding what's going on day to day in people's homes, the discussions that they're having at the kitchen tables. And Jesse has been able to go out and do that. Even in the midst of a pandemic, she was doing it virtually and digitally, but she was making those phone calls. She was meeting with people. And that is just, that's something that we don't see all too often with elected officials. And my endorsement, my support, look, I'm one of many throughout the 4th Congressional. And I know, we get crazy sometimes about the inside baseball that becomes endorsements. But I'm one of many voters. And for me, it was important to talk to those people throughout my district who share these values that Jesse's been fighting for. And, that's why we're here today. So, we'll work hard over these next couple of weeks. It certainly is a tight race. It should be. That's the way these Democratic primaries always come down to the wire. But ultimately, the people, especially in my district, in the Bristol and Norfolk district, and the cities and towns that I represent in the 4th Congressional, they're smart people. They're hardworking, salt-of-the-earth people, and they know real candidates when they see them. And they've seen that in Jesse, and I see that in Jesse.
Well, Jesse, I never hide the fact I'm a son of Attleboro, and so it matters to me that we don't have someone who only represents Newton and Brookline, whoever ends up winning this seat and goes to Congress. Earlier this week, we covered New Bedford Mayor John Mitchell, which is out of the district, but he endorsed one of your rivals, Jake Auchincloss, and that campaign is clearly making a push to try to, you're going to be split 50 different ways up there in the northern part of the district, and he wants to be the southern part of the district candidate. Are you worried that Jake Auchincloss is running up the score a bit down in this part of the district, and that the rest you're going to have trouble if you can't get past him down here?
I think Jake Auchincloss should be worried that we're running up the score in the southern part of the district. I mean, Senator Feeney endorsing today. We have remarkable support in Fall River, the president of the city council in Taunton, State Representative Carol Doherty in Taunton, so many other local leaders. And we have, as Senator Feeney pointed out, working people. The Coalition for Social Justice, the single biggest grassroots organizing behemoth in Fall River, SEIU, Mass Teachers, Mass Nurses, IBEW Local 103, UAW, the Carmen's Union, the Painters Union, you name it, the organizations representing working people, many of whom live in the southern part of the district. I think we're up to representing like 270,000 some odd workers across Massachusetts have endorsed my campaign because I'm not just talking about these issues. I've been working on them for over 20 years in cooperation, in community with so many leaders in the southern part of the district, not just because I'm running for Congress, because it's been the work of my life. And so I think you're seeing us build incredibly strong support, not just among bold-faced names like Senator Feeney, who I'm so grateful to have, but among working people and voters who know that I've been going to bat for them my entire career, and that's certainly not stopping when I'm in Congress.
One last question for each of you. Senator Feeney, you're an interesting person in this election. Of course, you're always interesting to me, but this year, you're especially interesting because, all right, you were very much a Bernie guy. You were with him in the election campaigns, for the left, really pushing for a progressive message there. You're also a Joe Kennedy guy. You and I were together at his Attleboro kickoff event last year. And we're seeing right now quite, just my Twitter mentions, quite a divide caused by this Kennedy-Markey Senate race. I know Jesse will wish he wasn't even on camera as we talk about that because it's dividing are you worried, Senator, as someone, who has friends in both wings of the party, that this is causing deeper divides in the Massachusetts Democratic Party, this Senate race, because your congressman decided to jump into a race we didn't see him jumping into?
Look, Ted, I mean, primaries are messy, right? We know that. We know that anytime you get these crowded fields, anytime you have people taking on incumbents, there are in the fog of a campaign, in the fog of war, things are said. You live in the Twitter sphere, which I don't necessarily think is real world when it comes to these campaigns and elections. But that happens. But at the end of the day, one of the things that I've tried to do over my career as a union activist and worker for over 20 years, and now as a state senator, has been to kind of forsake all the labels, to get rid of what's progressive or what's liberal or what's conservative or what's, this or that, and really just focus on, number one, values, the values that are inherent in somebody and the things that they work for. And number two, the kind of person somebody is, right? And that's what, that's what I've tried to do in all the decisions that I've made as a state senator, excuse me, and certainly to the people that I support, is what type of person they are. We are in a crisis of just, incredible proportions that we haven't seen the likes of which. We have a public health pandemic. We have widening wage gaps. We have the United States Post Office under attack. I mean, who would have ever thought, right, that we would be having these discussions today? Well, when I look at who I want to support and who I'm going to vote for and who I think is worthy of us coming together and supporting, I look at who is that person that's going to inspire? Who is that person that's going to give us hope? Who's that person that's going to lift us up? And for me, I've made those decisions, as you said, in a presidential race previously, or in the United States Senate race, and certainly in this congressional race. I support people that I think are going to fight for people, that are going to fight for the average underdog, the working person, and somebody that's going to stand up and fight for our values. Again, not just talk about them, but actually go to work for them, even when it's not politically expedient. Now, I may lose some friends and supporters over that. I'm used to that. I make decisions based on what I think is right and what my supporters and the people in my district want me to do. And that's what I see in Jesse. And, I think we are in a divisive time, but it's going to take somebody like Jesse to bring us together. On September 1st, we're going to have a nominee for Congress in the 4th Congressional District, and it's up to that person to bring all of us together. And I know that Jesse Mermell can do that, and I look forward to partnering with her to help her do that.
Jesse, last question. We're coming up on the end of the race. You got this endorsement today. Your campaign has seemingly been feeling pretty good. What's the final sprint to primary day for you that you think can get you across the finish line?
Oh, muscle and workers. I mean, we have been building a remarkable, diverse, broad grassroots organization over the past, I launched on October 2nd, so however long ago that was. It's a day that ends in Y, Ted. I barely know where we are. But for a long, long time, we've been building this incredible organization. And the next 12 days are about flexing that muscle, getting out, talking to voters in the home sprint here, getting people out to the polls. And, we have this incredible organization with women's groups, unions, community organizations, local leaders, state leaders, and we are going to put them all to work at the grassroots level over the next 12 days. I was about to say we'll know on election night on September 1st. Probably not with mail-in voting, but once the votes are counted, we're feeling good about how our hard work is going to pay off.
Yeah, I'll be as nervous as you because I'll be tap dancing on television trying to figure out how you discuss an election night without winners potentially on September 1st. But we'll see how that goes. All right, Senator Feeney, Jesse Mermell, good to see you both. Thanks for taking the time to talk with me.
Thanks, Ted.
Thank you, Ted.